Bad to the Bone, a medical horror story. In 1958, a medical device company with the name of Synthes was founded by four Swiss surgeons in Switzerland. With their strong belief that broken bones could be better fixed internally with implants, they started developing products. In the 1990s, Synthes came across a company called Norian. Norian had developed a calcium phosphate based cement with the name of Norian. Norian not only filled cracks when injected in the skeleton, it miraculously transformed itself into actual human bone. In 1999, Synthes bought Norian for $50 million. At the time of the purchase, Norian already had FDA approval to market two versions of Norian: Norian SRS for use in the arm and Norian CRS for use in the skull. But there was still another market that Synthes wanted to hit with the use of Norian: filling fractures in the spine for a procedure called vertebroplasty. Determined to market the product for spine surgery, Synthes sought for FDA approval. Unsuccessfully, Synthes would have to obtain an investigational device exemption in order to start long, costly clinical trials before it could be approved. Unethically, Synthes took the easy route and went straight into market research for Norian. On March of 2000, Synthes employees began interviewing spine surgeons and found that Americans suffer more than 500,000 VCFs each year, and that the market potential was considerable. In February of 2001, a Santa Monica spine surgeon experienced complications on two patients when using Norian. According to company documents, the patients experienced rapid drops in blood pressure shortly after the surgeon injected the cement, and an anesthesiologist had to administer drugs to keep them from dying. Despite several warnings to promote Norian, Synthes continued to push the cement product for spine surgery. Synthes decided to get approval from the FDA for a less demanding form of regulatory approval for Norian. These approvals still had its regulations on how Norian should be used. Ignoring the FDA's regulations, a thirsty for success Synthes continued distributing Norian as they wished. They put many patients' lives on the line and even took some away. Norian caused blood clots if the cement leaked into blood vessels in the spine. Any leakage into them could send cement to the lungs and heart, causing a fatal clot. Even with the numerous fatal procedures involved with the use of Norian, Synthes ignored all dangers until being prosecuted by the FDA on off-label marketing. Synthes competes in the healthcare industry. Norian, on the other hand, competes in the medical device industry for bone implants. The buyers for Norian are spine surgeons. Some of these surgeons know of the complications they could face when using Norian based on past experience, yet some surgeons continue to use it. Norian was marketed to spine surgeons whom at first were unaware of the dangers that Norian possessed. Synthes employees were told to interview spine surgeons to see if there was marketing potential for this type of product in this industry. To their advantage, many Americans were in need of spine surgery. This gave Synthes the opportunity to enter Norian into the market of bone implants. Training to spine surgeons was also made available as a promotional approach. A selected group of surgeons were chosen to perform several dozen surgeries using Norian. Moreover, a training session for spine surgeons was planned. Synthes flew in surgeons from across the country, all expenses paid, in order to promote Norian as a safe method for spine surgeries with little downside risk. There was the training sessions where surgeons practiced injecting Norian into the vertebrae of cadavers. Binders with information about Norian were handed out at this session. Norian was sold to surgeons as an off-label product. Synthes sold the unapproved product and omitted the warning label signs. They were sold to patients who had no idea and had given no consent of using this fatal product on them. The buying decisions were simple. As mentioned before, surgeons were made to believe that Norian was a safe product. Synthes employees went to the far length of training surgeons on how to use the unapproved Norian version. Brochures were used implementing how there was little to no risk when using Norian. Synthes signed off on Norian's technique guide, a brochure that was given to surgeons. The guide omitted the warning that the FDA had ordered Synthes to include on the label, which said that the Norian shouldn't be used to treat VCFs. The brochure also included two case examples of x-rays belonging to two Norian patients. All these brochures and information from Synthes made Norian seem legit. Surgeons wouldn't question this product. The factors that affected the sales and marketing of Norian were there, but were disregarded by its distributor Synthes, who were money blinded. It is unethical for Synthes to start promoting a product that hasn't been approved by the FDA. Yet Norian kept being pushed into the market that it wanted to be successful in. It was also unethical to continue the distribution of Norian after complications and even deaths occurred, resulting in the use of this cement product. Innocent, indefensive patients who never gave their approval to get tested on were the guinea pigs of this project. The legal factors that would have affected the sales and marketing of Norian were also there, but they were again ignored by Synthes. The Food and Drug Administration gave Synthes many rules and regulations on how they had to market and sell Norian. Synthes continued their launch in whatever way they pleased. They took the easy route, in which was also the illegal way. It seemed that Synthes was capable of breaking any law and had no problem with it. The dangers the consumers would face didn't matter to them. The legal aspect was the least of their concern. Synthes involved all of their employees in a criminal act. There weren't any economic factors given to the patients that were tested with Norian without their consent. Economic buyers usually know all the facts and compare all possible products before purchasing. In this case, the product injected in their spine surgery procedure was not compared to any other products. Worst of all, these patients didn't know of all the side effects and the dangers that Norian could cause, since no warning label was present. Social cultural was equal to every patient that was on the operating table. Synthes didn't discriminate against any cultural group. They wanted to go into any possible target market that they were able to enter. In my opinion, the Food and Drug Administration did everything in its power. Synthes was given regulations on how and to whom its product was to be used. The FDA explicitly told Synthes not to promote Norian for certain spine surgeries. The company still pushed forward anyway. This resulted in the death of at least 5 patients. When Synthes wanted to get the approval from the FDA on the third use of the Norian product, which was spine surgery, a process on how to get approval granted was informed to them. The FDA set the rules and told them that approval was going to be given until clinical trials were conducted to test if the product was safe on the operating table. Synthes continued to conduct its own clinical study on innocent patients. The FDA prohibits unapproved products to be marketed or even mentioned. Synthes continued to promote Norian. Later on in the case, Synthes looked for a less demanding alternative to get Norian approved by the FDA. Approval was given to Synthes with the condition that Norian was not going to be mixed with another product. This was a crucial barrier for Synthes, since they knew that spine surgery would not be able to be performed without the mixture. FDA told them not to promote Norian for the use of spine surgery, even with this approval. The FDA continued to put exceptions on Norian every time they seek the new approval. The FDA had recently issued a public notification that stressed the off-label nature for spine surgeries. The FDA ordered it to include a warning on its label that said Norian should not be used to treat spine surgery fractures. Even when Norian wasn't allowed to be promoted and sold to its target market, Synthes continued to distribute it to surgeons performing vertebroplasties, a warning label that stated that the product was not to be used for spine surgeries was not included in the product. Companies are also responsible and forced to report to the FDA when any complications are made when using any approved product of theirs. When Synthes experienced the first fatal incident, it did not report it to the FDA since they believed that their Norian product was not the cause of the death. They never sent the report. When the second fatal incident occurred, a report from Synthes about the complications was sent to the FDA. The report was very vague and left out many important key factors. More action on the FDA's part were performed when an investigator from the FDA was sent to Synthes headquarters after he received the tip that the company had engaged in off-label marketing. Interviews were performed by the FDA investigator. Synthes employees denied almost all allegations. They lied to the FDA and told them they knew nothing about the product being used for spine surgery. Despite all the lying that was done to the FDA, the investigator didn't believe a single word. In his 143-page inspection report, he stated that the company had violated FDA rules. He wrote that Synthes should have applied for an IDE before testing Norian on patients. The company was accused of off-label marketing. The FDA had a case against Synthes. Thanks to the FDA, Norian, the maker of the cement, was charged with 52 felony counts, including lying to the FDA and intent to defraud, while Synthes was charged with 44 misdemeanors. As you could see, the FDA cannot be held responsible for the actions of Synthes. The Food and Drug Administration can only do so much. I find them not guilty. The FDA gave steps and rules to Synthes on how their product would be able to be approved by them. None of these fatal incidents would have happened if Synthes would have taken a more ethical approach. If Synthes would have attained the investigational device exemption in the first place, as enforced by the FDA, they would have surpassed the heavy fines and sentence time that they were faced with in the end. Many lives would have been saved and less lives would have been put to risk. This is a company that repeatedly ignored evidence of potential lethal consequences. The FDA followed their own rules and did their job to the best of their ability. It would not be fair for the FDA to be found guilty. This is a case where communication between Synthes and the FDA was all a lie. The FDA was lied to the entire time. Every time they had reached an agreement, Synthes would go behind the FDA's back and do as they wished. Never did Synthes follow any guidelines. Therefore, Synthes alone should be held responsible for the irresponsible manner in which Norian was promoted, marketed, and sold. It is a shame that companies like Synthes exist. These are self-absorbed companies that should pay for the consequences. The FDA should be left out of the scandal. More protection against the FDA should be used. They can't be held responsible for the childish actions that unethical companies choose to take. The FDA not guilty.